Hi, I'm Lillian and welcome to my magical readathon vlog. This readathon was created by G over on her channel Book Roast, and it's inspired by the Harry Potter series and the magical exam system they have. Basically, there are 12 subjects you can study, and for each one there is a book prompt. To pass that exam, all you have to do is read a book which fits that prompt. The best way to take part in this readathon is to pick a wizarding career and then fulfill the subjects you need to achieve in order to join that job. For instance, I want to join the aura career, so I need to pass 5 exams and fulfill the 5 reading prompts. So I'm just going to start off with talking you through my TBR. The first exam I need to pass is Charms, and the prompt for this is to read a book with a white cover. So for this one I am reading The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which is a murder mystery with a kind of sci-fi twist. The second exam I need to pass is Defense Against the Dark Arts, and the prompt for this one was to read a book set at the sea or on the coast. So I'm going to be reading The Lies of Locke Lamora. I've started reading this one last year. I didn't get very far into it, but I do remember that the city where it's set has like loads of rivers in kind of a Venice or Amsterdam kind of vibe, so I'm hoping that counts. The third subject I will need is Herbology, and the prompt for this is to read a book which starts with M. So I'm going to be reading the 4th volume of the Monstrous graphic novel series. I read the first 3 quite recently in order to prepare for reading this one, and I really liked it. It's a very complex and dark high fantasy series, and so I really think I'm going to enjoy this one as well. The 4th subject I need is Potions, and the prompt is to read a book under 150 pages. So I'm going to be rereading Saga Volume 3. It was actually really hard to find a book which filled this prompt because even graphic novels tend to be over 150 pages. Luckily this one got in just under the boundary. The final subject I need to pass is Transfiguration, and the prompt for this one is to read a book that contains shape-shifting. So I'm going to be reading Red Thread. This is a non-fiction book about labyrinths, but at the very beginning there's a retelling of the story of Zeus and Europa, which does contain shape-shifting. So even though that's just at the beginning of the book, it still counts for the prompt, and I'm looking forward to reading it. So those are the 5 books I'm hoping to read. 5 books is already pretty ambitious for me to read in a month, to be honest, so I don't think I'm going to take on any of the extra prompts or challenges that you can do in the readathon. Obviously if I read more than 5 books, that would be great as well, and I'll be updating you throughout the month. But so far I'm just hoping I enjoy the ones I've picked out.
Look at this boy.
He does like to sleep completely stretched out, like a loaf of bread or a sausage of some kind. So reading update, I finished my first book, which was Monstrous Volume 4. I really enjoyed it. I just think the series is getting better and better and more enjoyable for me as I read it. If you've heard of this series before, the word you've probably heard to describe it is confusing, which it definitely is. It's a very complex, very far-reaching, high fantasy world. There is so many strands of plot and so many characters and so many mysteries that are all so tangled together. It is very hard to get your head around at first. So I reread the first 3 in the series to prepare myself for this one, and I actually ended up taking loads of notes so I could remember exactly what was going on and which mysteries had been solved and which mysteries are still to be revealed. I love how rich and how well developed this world is, and I like how now that I have a really good understanding of the world and the characters, I feel like nothing is lost on me. I think that this one is the one I've enjoyed the most so far. I'm going to give it 4 stars. The first 3 I only gave 3 stars. At first, actually, when I reread the first one, I upped it to 4 stars because I was now able to appreciate the complexity of it. But this one I've enjoyed the most just because the complexity of the series is now my favourite thing about it. And actually I enjoyed this book so much that there's this annoying fox character who I thought was really annoying, and I didn't bother to learn her name for the first few books because she was so annoying. Even she's kind of redeeming herself in this one. So I'm here for that. I'm here for it just getting better and better, and I'm kind of annoyed now that I've caught up with the series, that there isn't a next one for me to read yet. So I'm hoping that gets published soon. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this first read. It means I have officially achieved my Herbology owl with reading that one. So next I think I'm going to read The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I'm thinking of going from something quite high fantasy to something sci-fi because those are my favourite genres. I've heard some good things about it. I don't know much, but I'm hoping I enjoy it. It's about a week into the readathon and I haven't filmed anything else, but I do actually have some things to update on. So my first update is that I finished reading The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Unfortunately, I didn't really like it that much. My first issue is that the title is very similar to The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is another book, very popular on BookTube, that was published the year before this one. So I'm wondering, how did anyone think this was an okay title and not put the pieces together and realise how incredibly similar it is to this other incredibly popular book? And also, whoever wrote the blurb of the book didn't do a very good job because it's quite spoilery. Like, really? It's meant to be a mystery, but the blurb gives you quite a lot of detail which you don't find out until very far into the book. First of all, I think it would have been better if, like, the name of the victim wasn't even mentioned in the title. This would have been a good way to make the title into something actually unique. Yeah, it sounds good, but you don't realise that Evelyn Hardcastle is the victim until about 100 pages into the novel, and it would have been much better if the title of the book didn't spoil that, and that was like a genuine revelation of like, oh, she's who we're trying to save. And also in literally like the first sentence of the blurb, it gives you some details which you don't find out until literally 60% of the way through the book. It's kind of an irrelevant detail to the murder mystery itself, but still, like, when it was revealed in the book, my only reaction was, oh, okay, I knew that already. You told me in the first sentence of the blurb. This isn't that big of a reveal. And actually the first experience I had reading this book was being confused about the blurb because the final sentence, which isn't a spoiler, is, and someone is desperate to stop him, the protagonist, ever escaping Blackheath. And I was like, oh, okay, this book is set in Blackheath in London. But then I was thinking, wait, from what I know about this book, I'm getting the vibe that it's set in like a big manor house in the countryside, which is like definitely not Blackheath. So I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe this is like an American author or someone who doesn't know London that well and just picked Blackheath as a name because, yeah, that sounds cool. It sounds like a cool name for a manor house or something in the countryside. And I was like, oh, okay, that's going to be a bit annoying because every time they say Blackheath, I'm going to think of the place in London, but I can get past that. And then I open the book and there's a little note about the author just on the inside, and it says he's from London, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it is actually set in Blackheath. Oh, that's so dumb of me, like, oh yeah. And then a few pages later there is a map of Blackheath Manor. So that was a roller coaster to begin with, and it kind of set the theme of the book undermining itself in certain aspects and not being what I expected it to be. I don't think I've explained properly what this book is about, but it's basically a murder mystery where the protagonist has to solve the murder by each day he wakes up in the body of another person who was present on that day, like either a witness or a suspect or both. That's the whole point. And he has to live the day out from all these different perspectives and then solve the mystery. And that sounds really interesting. That's what drew me to the book. But unfortunately, that kind of sci-fi aspect of how he's able to wake up in these bodies and what exactly is going on and why is he there in the first place, it's given a lot more emphasis than it should be. And those sci-fi elements really undermine the mystery. I think the murder mystery itself would have been like a lot better if that was the core. There wasn't all this extra stuff going on that made it feel like a sort of a weird Black Mirror episode by the very end of it. So yeah, this book was a bit disappointing. The mystery itself was kind of interesting, but by the time it got going and it was about to be solved, we had all this other stuff that was answering all the other questions that were basically unrelated to the murder mystery. The protagonist basically didn't have a personality because he would wake up each day in the body of someone else and would kind of take on their personality a bit. But that just meant, like, I didn't know anything about him. And then we were kind of given a little info dumpy stuff right at the end of the book, which again, I didn't like because it was completely irrelevant to the murder mystery. But luckily, time has passed since then. I'm starting to get over my disappointment, and I actually got 4 new books, 2 of which I'm going to tell you about now because I'm slipping them into my O.W.L.s TBR. I know I said I wasn't going to do any extra ones, but I can never stick to a TBR. So the first one is The Penelope Ad by Margaret Atwood, which I've been wanting to read ever since my final year of university, where I did a module about the Odyssey and retellings of the Odyssey, and it was like the best thing I'd ever studied. And even though I've read quite a lot of Margaret Atwood's books and never really liked any of them that much, I know, unpopular opinion, I wanted to read this one because it's related to the Odyssey. So even if I didn't really like her style of writing that much, I was hoping the subject matter would interest me. And this fills the prompt for Care of Magical Creatures, which is to read a book with a creature on the cover that has a beak. So, like a bird, basically. And now I have this, it's literally the only book on my TBR which fills that criteria, and it's also super short, so I'm pretty confident I can read it by the end of the month. And then I also got Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna Maguire, which fills the prompt for, I think, Ancient Runes, which is to read a book with either a heart on the cover or the word heart in the title. And another update is, I've already finished this book because it's super short and I really liked it. This book and the series that follows is kind of inspired by Alice in Wonderland and Narnia, where children will go through a magical door or a gateway into another world. And then this book deals with the children who come back into the real world, and often they really don't want to leave the magical world because they loved it there. It was like the perfect place for them. And this book was also kind of a murder mystery. I thought the whole concept was very clever and interesting. It was really well written, and I'm definitely going to be reading the next books. So having finished these 2 books, that brings my total up to 3 owls, which is pretty good if I do say so myself. I have no idea what book I'll be picking up next, but so far I've had 2 books I really liked and only 1 I didn't, so this is still going pretty well for me. So this is me pretending to be Chandler Ainsley and doing a reading vlog in the car. Basically, the only thing I have to update is that I started reading The Lies of Dr. Moore. Well, rereading it technically, because last year I read the first 50 pages. This time I only got about 10 pages in before I realised it really wasn't what my brain wanted to read next. There's just too many names and world building stuff, which normally I would love. And like a few minutes ago you saw me rant about how much I love that in Monstrous. But I think I need a break. So instead I started rereading Saga. I did volumes 3 and 4 again to like familiarise myself with them, and it's just so much fun. I'd forgotten how much I loved it. And so then I could finally get onto volume 5, which I think I got for my birthday or something last year, so I've had it for ages. And yeah, it was just another really fun continuation of the story. I think my favourite character might be Lying Cat. If you read the series, I think you'll agree that he's pretty cool. So I'm either going to move on to volume 6 next, or I actually might start reading one of the ebooks I have on my phone. I would show you the cover, but obviously it's on my phone, which I'm currently filming on. So the first one is called My Lovely Wife, and it's a thriller, I think, about like a cookie cutter, white picket fence, perfect couple, but they like to murder people for fun. And I've heard good things about that. And the second one is called Lock Every Door, which is about a woman who gets a job apartment sitting in like a really fancy Manhattan apartment building, I think. But obviously there's something creepy going down, otherwise it wouldn't be a very interesting thriller. And I think I'm probably more excited to start that one because I've heard more good things about it. But really I could just see how the mood takes me. So I'm probably going to start reading one of those in a second. I'm currently sitting in the car park at Sainsbury's while my dad queues up to get inside. But to be honest, the queue's moving really quickly and he'll probably be done in like 15 minutes. So start reading now, see how much I get done. Look at this boy. Oh, he saw me coming.
Les croissants. Oh, I love les croissants. I really feel like we need to make some
boy. Show me them beans. Show me that doof. That bang. Oh.
It was like, oh my god, Lillian, stop!
I just love him. Boy, boy, boy.
Is she annoying you, Bingley?
Yes.
So it's a week later. I didn't read any more of O.W.L.s, though I did finish Lock Every Door. It was just the perfect creepy thriller I wanted to read and like reset my brain a bit. I think it did quite a good job building up the creep factor throughout the beginning of the book, though I kind of wish it had taken longer to do that because most of the action only happens within 5 days, and actually in the contents page itself and in the heading of sections it would say things like 5 days before, 4 days before, 3 days before, counting down to like the big reveal. And so because the build up bit of any thriller is usually my favourite part, I kind of wish that had been expanded a bit. But having said that, I do really like the ending of this book and how it was all wrapped up. I thought it was really well done and very satisfying to read. And it actually only took a couple of days to get through because I was reading it on my phone, which for me always goes really quickly. So I'm counting that one as an unexpected owl in Muggle studies. The prompt for that was to read a contemporary book. And I know when people hear contemporary, they think of like romance or like fun contemporary YA. But this was a thriller set in our modern world, so I'm counting that as a contemporary. So that brings my completed number of hours up to 5 this month. I didn't say before, but the reread of Saga Volume 3 counted towards potions, which was to read a book under 150 pages, and that was like 144, so it was like just in there. And I've actually completed my goal of reading 5 things for my owls, just in different subjects than I had planned for. So I'm going to have to eventually circle around to my original TBR again. But not yet, because the next book I'm going to read is Saga Volume 6, and it's about 20 minutes to 8, so I'm going to wait for the sun to start setting and then read that. And that's for the astronomy prompt, which is to read most of a book when it's dark outside. And then once I've finished that, I can hopefully get back to Loch Lamora and even start Red Thread. So fingers crossed that actually happens, because I'm really not in the mood for any high fantasy at the moment. Well, it's dark outside, so it's time to start this bad boy. So I'm back in the car in the Sainsbury's car park while my dad does the shopping, and I thought I would do a variant of the try chapter tag, which is where you read the first chapter of various books and decide which one you want to read next. So I've bought 3 potential reads with me. Ooh, we have the Penelope ad, which is pretty short, so I think I might just read like 20 pages or something and see how it goes. I've also bought Loch Lamora. I know I keep saying I need to read this. I'm about 7 pages into my reread. So I might try another 10 or something and see how it goes. And then I've also bought Red Thread. And I read a review somewhere on Goodreads that it doesn't actually have like chapter breaks. It's just kind of one continuous text. So again, yeah, I might just have to do it by page count instead of reading the first chapter. So I'm going to start off Red Thread and see how it goes. Okay, so I've read the first 15 pages of Red Thread and I'm really liking it. It's a non-fiction book, but it reads like fiction. It's really well written. It has this kind of dreamlike quality to it, I guess. I'm already thinking that this might be the next one I pick up, because honestly I was like reading it and I'd get to the end of a section, because there aren't really chapters but there are like short sections. I don't know what they were talking about in that review, and I'd want to read the next one immediately. I was looking at the time like, oh, do I have enough time to read the next section? So that's a really good sign. Next I'm gonna do the Penelope ad. It's only 195 pages, so I don't want to read too much of it because I might just get like a third of the way through and decide to finish it, and that kind of defeats the point of the trying a little bit of everything. So I think I might just read like 10-15 pages again, even though there's obviously a lot less writing per page on this one. And so this one is about Penelope, who is the wife of Odysseus, who's like the guy in ancient Greek stuff that went to war for 10 years and then spent 10 years trying to get back because he kept getting like delayed by various beautiful women on different islands. Meanwhile, Penelope, his ever faithful wife, was waiting at home for him and kind of fighting off suitors who were like, your husband's been gone 20 years, he's obviously dead, let us marry you. But she stayed faithful, and that's kind of what she's known for. She is the faithful wife archetype, literally. And so I think this is meant to kind of be like a retelling, but to give her some more agency and to like look into her perspective on things and why she did what she did. I'm not sure if she's going to change the original myth and like what Penelope supposedly did or didn't do, but I'm interested either way. Okay, I've read the beginning. It took me about 5 minutes because there's like hardly any writing on the pages. And again, I'm really liking it. It seems like it's Penelope telling her life story, but also with emphasis on the 12 maids who worked in Penelope and Odysseus's castle, palace, house, whatever, and who he killed when he came back home again after 20 years. Because they had been like entertaining and sleeping with the suitors who also wanted to marry Penelope, which was obviously not their fault, not something I think they wanted to do, but they still all got hung from the rafters anyway. So I think as well as giving Penelope a bit more control over her story and kind of like explaining why she did what she did, we're also going to get to hear a lot about these 12 girls as well. So that was something I did not expect. And now it comes to my enemy, the Lies of Loch Lamora. I'm not entirely sure how long my dad is going to be. I feel like I've been here for ages. So I'm just going to start reading this from where I got to and see how far I can get into it. It's so long. It's like 520 something pages. That's too long. That's too long for my brain right now, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I'm now about 30 pages into The Lies of Loch Lamora, and annoyingly, I'm also really enjoying it. I know I said my brain wasn't ready for any like high fantasy, incredibly long, kind of confusing books, which this one definitely is. There's already like so much world building going on, which my brain hasn't had quite enough time to latch onto yet. But it's still a good book, I can already tell. It's also kind of like a heist, which I don't think I've ever actually read before. I've seen some heist films obviously, but never like a heist in book form, so I'm intrigued. But also this experiment didn't really work because all it did was reinforce that I like all these 3 books and I'm quite good at picking out my own TBR. So I genuinely don't know which one I'm going to do. I think the next one might be the Penelopiad. It's so short, but it will give me that sense of accomplishment for finishing a book. And who knows, maybe that will give me the momentum to actually finally read this one. So I know what's going to happen next. So I did read the Penelopiad next. Me and my sister went to read outside in the garden, and I brought the Penelopiad and Red Thread with me while she was reading Circe, and then we realised that all three of the books were somehow related to Greek mythology. Unfortunately, I did not love the Penelopiad. I really thought it was going to be like a sort of untold story of Penelope and give her some more agency and give her some more things to do and what was she really up to and what does she really feel about things. But it just emphasised how ultimately helpless she was in the story. Like, she didn't have any new power, she had hardly anything new or interesting about her in this retelling. The only new aspect about this was her sort of more close of a relationship with the 12 maids who get murdered at the end of the Odyssey, and I was really hoping that would have more to it. I think my main issue with this book was that I wanted it to be more. I wanted it to be more interesting and more in depth and give me more new things, and it felt just a bit surface level, to be honest. Like, it's kind of a waste of 200 pages. I learnt maybe like one new thing, which I could have googled. I just wanted it to do more for me, and it didn't. And so it's another disappointing Margaret Atwood book, I'm afraid. But I was thinking that maybe this longing for moreness of some kind, more complexity, I don't know, more in-depth stories, is maybe telling me that I should actually try and read Locke Lamora again, because the issue I had with it earlier this month was that it was too confusing, or not too confusing, but too much for my brain to handle. And now my brain is like, please give me more, the Penelopiad wasn't it, I want more, so maybe this is it. And I've just realised I never said on here what I thought of Saga Volume 6. I did like it, it was a fun continuation to the series. There's not much I can say without spoiling it. There were a couple of characters I didn't think had been done justice in this volume. I thought they were a bit out of character and doing stuff which I wasn't so interested in. But the main characters I still like what they're up to. I had some fun, new, exciting twists and turns of the plot, and that's all I'm asking for. And I did manage to read most of it when it was dark outside, so that is the prompt for astronomy done and dusted. It's happening. Let's see how this goes. Day 3 of reading Locke Lamora in the evening. I'm on page 135. So it is the evening of the third to last day in April, and I still have 350 pages of Locke Lamora to read. Plus I need to finish Red Thread, and I was hoping to read something for divination, like a quick graphic novel to do on the last day, but I'm seriously questioning if I have time to even do that now. So I'm going to read a little bit now, see how much I can get through, and hope it's like a good omen for these last few days. I am really liking Locke Lamora, it's just quite intimidating, but the writing's really good. I'm really liking the characters. I like the whole like heist con man vibe it has going on, and I am really interested in what happens next. So it's the last day of April today, and I still have about 200 pages to finish of Locke Lamora, plus I want to read a graphic novel to fulfill the divination owl's prompt. The prompt for this one was to use a random number generator to pick a book from your TBR, so I decided to keep it really simple. I chose to pick between Anya's Ghost and Sheets, which are both pretty short graphic novels. I realise now they're both about ghosts, and I put it in the random number generator, and out of 1 and 2 it chose 2. So I'll be reading this today and hopefully finishing Locke Lamora. The thing about Locke Lamora is, even though I'm still quite scared of it as a book, even though I'm over halfway through now, I am really liking it. I think it's been actually years since I read a proper complex high fantasy novel like this. I honestly can't remember the last time I read one. And this book is really not at all what I expected. I mean, I didn't really have that many expectations, but it's kind of a cross between a heist, gang warfare, high fantasy, adventure mystery, murder mystery. There's a lot of things going on, and I'm quite invested at this point, but I did just look up the rest of the series to see how many books there were, and I think only the first 3 have been published, and that's within like, I don't know, 15 years or something. It's one of those series which is being written quite slowly, and like the last, I think it's 3 or 4, can't remember if it's a 6 or a 7 book series, they haven't even been written yet. And I was looking at the Goodreads page for the next one to be published, I think maybe the 4th one, and people had written on it like 4 years ago, like, oh, cover reveal, how exciting. So this does not bode well for me finishing this series, really. So I'm going to make myself a cup of hot chocolate, settle down on the sofa, and just try and plan my way through this book. I have decided that I am not going to be even attempting to read Red Thread this month. I still really want to read it, and like the first chapters that I did get to read in the car a couple of weeks ago, I really liked, but there's just no way it's going to happen to count for the owls. Luckily, the prompt I was reading it for, which was Transfiguration, to read a book with shape-shifting in, I have already accidentally fulfilled with another book I've already read. Not one that I've already mentioned for another prompt, because you're not allowed to double up and use one book for multiple prompts, but I did accidentally read a book which fits it. But I'll tell you tomorrow when I do my wrap up of everything I've read this month. I finished it. It was excellent. I'm going to bed now. So we're a couple of days into May now, so I'm going to give you my entire Magical Readathon wrap up. I'm going to start with the books I like the least and then work up to my favourites. So I had 2 2-star reads this month. The first one, and my least favourite, was probably The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I read this for charms, and I would unfortunately say it was just a waste of time, to be honest. I would recommend staying away from this if you want to read a murder mystery book that's actually about a murder mystery. And the other 2-star read is the Penelope by Margaret Atwood. I read this for Care of Magical Creatures. And again, it was a waste of time, to be honest. It's a book that doesn't really need to exist. It didn't bring anything that new to the character, the mythos of Penelope. And one final piece of criticism I haven't mentioned yet is that the narrator version of Penelope seems so different to the Penelope in the story who she's talking about. The narrator comes across as so intelligent and a little bit cynical and quite cunning, but then she doesn't do anything that intelligent or cunning or cynical in the story itself, apart from some trickery that's already in the original story. And the focus on the 12 maids had so much promise, but didn't follow through. It just wasn't enough. I think if Margaret Atwood had written a full-length book about the 12 maids, and then Penelope could have been like an enigmatic side character, I would have been really into that, if only it existed. Okay, so moving on to my 3-star reads, I had 2 of these as well. The first one I'm going to talk about is Sheets. Did I technically read this on the 1st of May and therefore it's ineligible to count as the divination owl? Technically yes, but am I pretending that I got an extension for my exams from Professor McGonagall? Also yes. I heard about this graphic novel from Ariel Bassett here on BookTube, and she really loved it. I can't say it's a new favourite of mine because I'm only giving it 3 stars, which is still a positive rating for me, but it was really sweet. I just wish it had been a bit longer. I wish like it had had more content, because I liked what was there. I just wish there was more of it. And the illustrations are really cute. The story that's set in our world is like full colour, but then when it cuts to like the ghost world, I guess, it's in sort of bluey and white and grey tones, which I thought really worked. So yeah, even though it's not a new favourite, I would still recommend it. And the other 3-star read was Lock Every Door, which I read for Muggle Studies. It was a fun, thrilling read. The thriller, mystery, crime genre will never be my favourite, but if I like them all as much as I like this one, then I'm definitely going to keep reading them. Okay, next we're going to talk about all the saga rereads. I reread 3 through 6, and these all either got 3 or 4 stars for me. So the first one is Volume 3. I read this for the potions prompt, gave it 4 stars, really liked it. I then read Saga Volume 4, and this is the one that counts for Transfiguration, because in this series there is like a ghost character who can shapeshift. And I didn't realise this until after I'd like finished reading everything, but this one does in fact count for that owl. So I did get the Transfiguration owl after all, and I gave this one 4 stars. Then we got Saga Volume 5. This one I gave 3 stars because it was still really good, just not quite 4-star level. And this one also unexpectedly counts towards an owl. This one counts towards History of Magic. The prompt for that was to read a book with either witches or wizards in it, and even though they're not like really witches or wizards, I'm counting it anyway. The whole saga series is about like people from a planet who are at war with people who live on the moon, and the people who live on their moon can kind of do what seem to be spells. So I'm counting that. And finally I read Saga Volume 6, which I gave 4 stars as well, and that was for the astronomy prompt. And so finally we come on to my favourites. I gave all of these next books 4 stars. Unfortunately there were no 5-star reads this month, but I am really picky about giving out 5-star ratings, so like it's still very successful for me. So Monstrous, which I read for Herbology, got 4 stars from me. Like I've already said, love the complexity, love the world building. I would really highly recommend this graphic novel series to anyone who's not afraid of using a bit of brain power to read something. Then we had Every Heart a Doorway, which I read for arithmancy. This one was kind of an unexpected favourite for me. I didn't think I'd like it enough to give it 4 stars, but just the premise was so interesting. I really love the characters. The writing was so beautiful, and I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. And finally, my nemesis, Vanquished at Last, The Lies of Locke Lamora, which I read for Defence Against the Dark Arts, and after having owned it for 3 years, I finally finished it. I am very glad it's over at last, even though I probably won't be able to finish the series itself for maybe another 15 years, at the current rate it's being written. Although, to be honest, I reckon maybe like 95% of the content of this book makes it work as a standalone. There's only like a few aspects which you can tell are building towards the sequel, or like characters who are mentioned in this one but we don't meet, and like I'm pretty sure we're going to meet them in the 2nd or 3rd book. So if the idea of having to wait like many years for the rest of the series to be finished does not really appeal to you, I would suggest maybe trying this one anyway and treating it as a standalone, because I do think that would work. So yeah, that's everything I read. Apart from a couple of duds, it was still a really good reading month for me. I remember at the beginning of April saying like, oh, 5 books is already quite ambitious for me, and look, I've read over double that amount. So reading 11 things meant that I actually passed 11 hours. The only one I didn't pass was Ancient Runes. No wait, I did pass Ancient Runes. Ancient Runes was Every Heart a Doorway. Okay, Every Heart a Doorway did count as Ancient Runes, not Arithmancy, which I think I said it was. Arithmancy is the only one I haven't technically passed. The prompt for that one was to read a book outside your normal genre. So my favourite genres are fantasy and sci-fi. So actually like Lock Every Door could count towards that one instead of Muggle Studies. So maybe when it comes to the Newt's Readathon in August, if I'm feeling cheeky and I really need an Arithmancy owl instead of a Muggle Studies one, I could potentially transfer that over. We'll see how it goes. But I have completed my original goal of becoming an aura, so that's very exciting. I'm ready to fight wizarding crime should the need arise. And I've just had a really fun time this month reading and doing this vlog. I hope you, whoever is watching this, has had an equally successful month. If not, I hope your May, June, July, etc. is more successful for you. And yeah, I don't really know how to end this, so I'm just going to hold up my stack of books and wave at the camera. Here they are. Okay, bye! Half an hour.